So I wrote this story, this Western. I don't do things in a normal manner. I cannot convey with pen and paper my heart. So somehow my God gave me this gift where in my mind I can take an idea, I can open my heart to the Lord, and I want you to know that little lady, she made my heart more accessible to me. I didn't know how hard I had become. But I now can speak from the heart, and I tell you, I thank that beautiful woman. So I spent an hour and a half, and I wrote a complete movie in my mind. I saw every individual. There were only two people in it really that mattered. One was a woman, and one was a young man. Been a long time since I've been a young man. I called him Hero, and I called that woman the black-haired warrior woman. You see, I want you to know something. I don't know anything about anything other than what I see in my mind, but I despise this is going to hurt. I despise abuse. I walk into a room, I can look around, I can pretty much tell you each woman that has been abused, and baby children are born into families, and some bastard somewhere somehow will cross the line, and they will then use and abuse that baby child, and then they'll spend the rest of their days while they're using and abusing that baby child, and they'll teach that baby to condemn themselves. That's the only way cowards can exist. So this story, I don't think you're going to have to look hard to see who was abused. Let's get at it. I rewrote that story 5 times in my mind. I got her cut down a bit. I don't ever know where God's going to take me when I open my mouth. I don't know what I'm going to say. I tell you this, I'll say it from my heart. I'm gonna speak to you. I wanted to speak to you through Hero's perspective. I can't, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to talk to you like I feel. And here it goes. They call me Hero. I don't really know why that is. And I was, if I can remember the word, I went to school for a short while. The word, I'm pretty sure, is luxuriating in a mountain stream early spring. If you ever got your ass in a mountain stream early in the spring, you'd know not very luxurious. But I hadn't had a bath for a while, and I was laying back trying to keep from screaming like a baby girl and getting my sorry ass. I'm gonna keep this so you can have so you can have your daughters if they're not too young. Listen, I'm back in character. Here we are. I leaned back and I looked up at the sky, and the sky was blue, and I thought of the many years I'd worked for one ranch or another. Never seemed like I fitted in. Most ranch hands that I know, they just wanted to drink, and I'd done enough of that and I quit. What I wanted to do was to get up every morning and thank God for the privilege of another day. And I'd pray that one day God would find me a woman to love. And as I lay back there and my hand was near my gun and my gun was on the rock and I truly was freezing my ass off, I heard a horse come up. It was very quiet. The stream was pretty loud. I could hear back then. I heard the creak of the saddle as someone got off that horse, and I had my hand on the handle of my handgun, and I was ready to live or die. I heard that person walking closer to me. That woman. She said, I've been studying you for some time. I thought that's very disappointing. Not that much to look at here. She said, I want you to stand up. I thought, well, evidently I've already been humiliated. I might as well finish it off. I stood up. That woman said, you climb up out of that bank and you set that little toy gun on the ground. She said, because I have you covered. I saw that woman's gun, and I stood up, and then I saw her. She was a black-haired, white-skinned woman of unbelievable beauty. She said, I want you to step ahead a bit. I'm going to have a closer look at you, Sonny. I thought, I sure as hell hope she's really short-sighted, but she just wasn't. She walked around me and she came in front. She didn't get very close, and she said, you're going to do. She said, you're wondering what I'm talking about, aren't you? I said, I am. She said, you know, I was 12 years old when my mom and dad sold me to that man that you call your boss. He's my husband. At 12 years old, I didn't know. She said I didn't know much, except she said I knew that man was going to come and take me. But she said something happened. She said, I don't know. She said, I've been married to that man for 10 years, and the only thing I do for that man is I meet his company on Sundays. He's a politician, and he invites his Christian friends over, and all that man wants me to do is to serve them and talk pretty. She said, they want me to look pretty. She said, I looked in the mirror. She said, I don't have to try hard. She said, I am pretty. But she said, for 10 years, though I loathed the idea that that bastard would ever touch my body, she said, I've wanted a son. She said, Sonny, you're going to give me that today. And she said, if you dare touch me, I'm not letting go of my gun, she said. You dare touch me in any way other than in what I say, I'm going to find another to have my son because you're going to be dead. She said, I'm going to do something I thought I was going to do 10 years ago, and I've not done it in front of a man yet, but you just stand there, Sonny, and she said, I'm going to take my clothes off. She did. I'm not talking about that. She said, what do you think of this? She said, God gave me this body. Sure took my breath away. And because it was God that gave me hope. When I didn't have any. She said, I want you to walk closer to me, and I thought, you don't have to ask twice, lady. But I couldn't walk. I couldn't move. I'd never seen anything so beautiful as that lady. And she didn't ask me my name, and I couldn't ask her name. But I want you to know I named her. I did not speak that name out loud, but I named that woman. I called her the black-haired warrior woman. She said, I've been abused all my life. I've been told I'm worth nothing. She says, my parents proved that I was worth something because they took the money that man offered and they bought me. He calls me, she said, he calls me his property. She said, God taught me that I'm no man's property. So I decided that today, and I've been watching you for a while, so trust me, I've been thinking on this. But she said, today, you're gonna make love right here in the meadow, right before my God. She said, I've been watching you for a while, and the men you work with, they hate you. There's only one reason why men hate another who's not a pervert or something, and that is, you're a Christian, aren't you? I said, I chose to believe in God when I was very young. She said, I understand. She said, you know, I've been praying about this, and my God, he spoke into my heart, and she was so beautiful. I just couldn't believe it. She said, God asked me, did you earn your salvation? And she said, I read just enough of the Bible to know I didn't and to know I couldn't. And he said, why are you acting like you did? I said, I'm sorry. She said, I'm sorry. God said, can you live good enough that you can maintain my love? She said, I can't. Her words were so familiar, God had asked me the same thing, the same questions. See, they call me hero, and so I'm going to try to speak so that you know just who is talking. I just don't do this well. This is the first time I ever done this. When God asked me those questions, I couldn't answer either. So that beautiful woman, she carried on. And she told me, she said, you're going to father my son. If you hurt me, I'll kill you. I believed her. She said, you walk closer to me. She said, you put your hands behind your back. I put my hands behind my back. I walked closer to her, and she said, you look into my eyes. I didn't want to tell her. That's all I've been looking at. Might have been the most beautiful woman I ever saw, but I couldn't take my eyes off her face. She said, you get closer. She said, don't you dare touch me. She says, I've been hurt all my life. Don't you touch me. I looked into her eyes. I don't think it was more than 4 minutes. All I saw was her heart and her soul and her spirit. Don't ever get too close to me. Don't ever let me look into your eyes. God showed me way more than you ever want to have seen. Next thing I saw in her eyes, I saw eternity. I don't know. I mean, I ride horses. Quite frankly, I'm not that good at it. But I ride horses and I ride trail and I chase cattle. I've hardly ever talked to a woman. She said, you step back now, and I'm telling you that broke my heart because something happened to me. For the first time in my life, I fell in love. Never knew what that was like. A warrior woman, she said, you just start doing what I say, and we're not going to talk about this. No one is ever going to know. I said, woman, I have never betrayed the trust of a woman. I know one that thinks I did. I didn't. She said, one more thing, she said. She is into country music. She said, you're about to have a millionaire's dream and tight-fitting jeans. And I looked at her and I thought, I don't ever want to see those jeans go back on that body. I've never seen a body like that. And she seemed to read my mind about how I read hearts about that good. And that chapter came to an end right there. Every day for the next 3 months, we did the same thing, I'm telling you. Come on, nigh on fall, I wasn't quite as big a rush to get buck naked in that stream, and it takes more of a man than I am to break the ice off the side of the stream and sit your sorry ass down there. And so late fall came, and I was just sitting on the bank of the river creek. Small. I heard a horse coming up behind me, and I thought, I'm going to be kind of, I don't know what they call it. I still don't know what they call it. I'm writing this story, and I don't know what it's called, but I sat there. I thought the next voice I'm going to hear is the voice of the woman I had grown to love. It wasn't. It was her husband. I come up off that bank. Must be a lot said about a man that's so in love that he can't hear. There were 30 horses behind me, and every one of them horses were being ridden by one of those bastards that I worked with who hated me because they went to town to drink, and I'd say the next word I'm not going to. Rancher. First time I believe I ever saw him close up. He said, "We're going to do something for you, sonny." Says, "We're going to gouge you." But we're going to put a rope around your neck. And that rope hit my neck so fast that whoever threw it knew what they're doing. They spurred that horse. They dragged me about 6 feet in the air, landed around my back, and that rancher, he stopped him, and I never raised my hand to protect my throat from that rope. I wouldn't give him the pleasure. He said, "Stand up." I tell you, I stood up. I did not put a knee to the ground. I didn't touch the ground. I just come straight up. I don't know how God did that, and I stood there. And he said, "We're going for a ride over to Hanging Tree Meadow." I knew where that was. I'd ridden close to that tree. I'd seen rope burns on that one branch, and they weren't old. He said, I'm going to kill you. You done your job with my property. I believe you made me a son." Now you're going to die. I thought in my heart, I won't be bad going to meet my God. Want you to know in my heart, I believe that loved a woman. I got back on my horse. We rode the hanging tree meadow, and we got close, and I put that rope around my neck again, and I put it over the branch, and the rancher said, you know, my property's going to be broken-hearted, and I thought, I don't even know the woman's name. You're talking to her like she's a piece of land. He said, you know, I'm going to offer you a very interesting proposition. I thought, given my present predicament, I might give some serious consideration to an alternative plan. He said, today's Thursday. He said, come Saturday, if you haven't broken up with my property, he never did. I don't know that I heard him say wife, but he may have. I want you to know God gave me the wherewithal to be a man, and my mother, she taught me to never be a coward. He said, I'm going to give you one chance. He said, I'm going to send the boys back, a few of the boys, and they're going to bring my property here, and they're going to strip her. Every single one of these boys is going to rape her. And if they don't do it more than 4 or 5 times, I'm going to fire them. And he said, I'm going to make you watch. And if she's alive, I'm going to make her watch, because I'm going to gut you. Then I'm going to hang you. And he said, you know what you can do about it? I said, not much, really. He said, well, actually, you can. You sit down with that lady and you tell her the harsh reality of what's going to happen if you don't leave. And I don't want to kill you because I want her to have a bit of hope that one day you'll ride back into her life. But if you ride back into her life, I'll do exactly with her what I said. I said, I'll do that. He said, you can hug my property. I'll let you have one kiss, he said. The boys are going to follow you. I knew that day and my life had changed. He told me where his wife was. Not his wife, he told me where my black warrior woman would be. I rode over to her and she seemed to know what was happening, and I got off of my horse and I took that one hug, and he didn't say how long. So I hugged her every second as I made sure she understood that if I didn't go, we'd both die. Warrior woman said, I'd rather die. Then spend my life without you. I was still doing my one hug. I took my hat off. I don't do that but to sleep and shower, I'm telling you. Thank God there's a door in the washroom. I don't care. I took that woman's face in my hands. I kissed the most beautiful lips I had ever seen, and I took one last look into her eyes, and I said what didn't need to be said, and I said, I will always love you. And she said, and I will love you too. And I said, woman, you take care of our son. She said, I'll make sure you'll meet him one day. I said, I thank you. I sucked it up. I got in the saddle. I had to let go of her. I let go of her. I just couldn't believe that I'd let go of her. I looked at her one last time, and I turned my horse to the mountain, and I gathered the lead rope for the pack horse, and I rode into nothingness. I left the most beautiful woman that God could ever have let me know. And I never came back for 27 years. And late last spring, something happened in my heart. I knew I'd lost her. I knew she was going to be with my Lord. I talked to my father. I talked to my father every day. 27 years by yourself. I never allowed myself to meet another human because I knew that bastard would be looking for me. And I don't hide. I face trouble. You talk to anyone that knows me. But I hid until that day. And God said, it's time to to go see her grave. And I knew where to go. I got off of my horse. I'd had many horses over the years. I really trained horses badly, but I don't know, somehow a couple of them worked out, and I ground hitched that when I walked over. I didn't have to look hard. Rich man's wife, biggest stone in the graveyard, and I saw it, and I turned the other way, and I went to the most humble stone, and I got down on my knees. Then I fell on my face. And I held that grass. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw her name. You might wonder at that. Still never heard her name. I still never know her name. I never wanted to ask, but I'll tell you, written on that tombstone. Were 3 words. Black-haired warrior woman beneath that. She had had them cut into her stone before she passed. She said, "I will always love you." Written right on the stone. I don't know how they put so much on stone. She said, "I'll be waiting in heaven." Took me a while. I got up. I walked over to my horse. I knew where I had to go. I don't know how. I went to the cafe. Little log cafe. One of the side streets of High River. I rode my horse over there. It said it was open. There was no one in there. I still knew I had to go there, so I walked through the door. Children, if I choose to walk through a door, you all better get the hell out of the way. And that day, that was a terrible day. I tell you, there was something, I don't know how to say it. I'm holding my chest. Don't you dare think I'm a pussy. I'm a man who has been taught to love. I walked into that cafe and I'm not big. I walk big. I'm not tall. I walk tall. But I felt like nothing. Everything that I had hoped and dreamed of was gone. I walked in, there was a young man there. He said, my mom told me you would come. He said, I bought this cafe. I'm the only one that comes here in the afternoon because my mom said you wouldn't get here until after lunch. He looked at me and he was a handsome child, and I thought, oh dear God, he's tall. Don't know where that came from. Oh, my dad, I guess, was tall. And he said, you're my dad. And I said, I love you, Mom. He said, she loved you. So he says it's going to take you a little bit of time to get used to knowing me, but let's just go out and get in the horse. Every day I've been coming here since my mom passed, because she said you had come. She said you're a lot taller than you seem to be, and I thought you and I we might yet have a conversation that doesn't involve words. I like that song that sang by John Cash. I'm country music, and I'm speaking because I'm the I don't know what I am, but I'm not a hero right now. John Cash sings that song about the pool cue and whatever the guy is, and the guy says, I wished I'd known you when you're a bit younger, you might have been a better shot. I'm back in character now. I've never been out of character. We walked out of that little cafe, and I looked around and I thought, this boy bought this so he could meet me one day. He shut the door on that cafe and he locked it. Before he locked it, he turned the sign and it said business closed. We walked over to his truck and I thought, this child's not stupid. He sure has his mother's smarts. I looked at a black Dodge Cummins dually 1 ton, and I thought, thank God it's not a Ford. There was something happened in my heart when I met my son. And my burden had been lifted. My tears, I cried them for most of 27 years until the day I felt that my warrior woman had gone home to be with the Lord. Only thing wrong with that sign, he didn't offer to let me drive. Of course, I hadn't driven for 27 years, and frankly, I hadn't. Last Dodge I saw sure didn't look like this one. He said, I'm taking you to the ranch, and I said, not sure about that, Sonny. He said, my mother taught me how to tell you what to do. He told his hired hand that was in the truck to get out, take my horses, and head for the ranch. And we headed for the ranch, and I knew where that ranch house was, and he slowed down just for a minute. It wasn't there. It had burnt down. I didn't ask, you didn't say. He kept going. We come to a little mountain stream. It was where my warrior woman and I had made love, that lady. I did not ever know what making love was. I'm only going to say this once, so you all listen. That woman taught me that if you love a lady, your needs are nothing, and you take care of her first. And when you figure you're done taking care of her, you do it again and again and again. And you give your heart, you give your soul, you give your body. I knew where that stream was. I asked that young man, I said, when did you build up here? He said, my mom, when That bastard stepdad died. My mom, she built this for you. We crossed a little bridge. I looked down. I saw that same rock where I used to put my handgun when I was freezing my ass off in that stream waiting for the most beautiful woman in the world. And I walked over that bridge and guarantee you I didn't feel like taking a dip. We walked up to a little log house. He opened the door. I'd like to hear a man comment on my heart when this gets on YouTube. Bring it on, you bastards. My warrior woman had jizzled right into the door. Welcome home. My love. My grandson, I thought I'd like to meet a grandson if that boy has one. That boy said, what did you say? I hadn't said a word. He heard me in my mind, I guess, and he said, "You want to see your grandchildren?" He said, "I have 4 sons." He said, they're small. But he says, I pretty much know how they're going to turn out. And we walked to the end of the deck, and he called his sons over, and those 4 little boys, they come over. Sorry, I hurt myself over the years, and I have to finish this up. This is only going to take me 5 minutes, and you know that young man. He said, "Let me introduce you to your grandchildren." He looked over at a skinny one, and he said, "That one's Jericho." Well, Jericho already had hair, not nearly as long as mine, and the next one he introduced me to, he said, "This is the youngest one." He said, "That boy's name is Blake, and that boy, he's gonna be a hunter." He said, "This next one," he says, "his name's Jake," and he said, "I think Jake's gonna live in the city," and he said, "Jake talks a lot," and I thought, well, I talk a lot, and gonna be a war of words there. And then he looked at the oldest boy. I tell you, that boy is not very old, and but he is oldest, and he said, "That boy's Cole." He said, "You know that boy, the only thing he does is he sits around and sings. Let's go, and I want to show you my mom's room where she left you a note on her Bible." And we walked into that log house, and he said, "You go up the loft." He said, "I haven't been there since the day that I buried my mom, but she said she left you a note on her bed, and I believe it because she knew she was going home." I walked up. I did not have strength enough to turn the handle. She must have realized that. The door was open. All I had to do was what I've always done when God opened the door. I just walked right through it, and I walked right in there, and it was a simple room. But the only big thing in the room was the bed, and She and I had never shared a bed. We had shared a meadow. We had shared the birds. We had shared the sky. We had made a sun. I walked over to the bed. I got down on my knees and I took her little Bible and I opened it where it was marked. She wrote on it, "I will always love you." She wrote it right next to the verse that says there will be no giving or taking in marriage in heaven, for we will all be as the angels, but we will know one another. And I thought, I'm just old enough. And when I was young enough, all I ever wanted to do was to look into her eyes anyways. I want you to remember, there's nothing greater than a man and a woman can do than to love each other unselfishly. And you better remember, and if there's a man out there, that bastard better remember this. There's no child abuse around me. And if my lady had not been hurt so hard, she probably wouldn't have been able to love so good. So I want you to know and understand this. I'm about done. I spilled my heart. I have nothing left. I wrote this. Well, I thought it was a short story, but it looks like it's a movie. I wrote this in my mind. And every time I did, and every time I reviewed it, I kept trying to cut more and more out of that. The fifth time, I got down to this. I thought it was pretty short. Well, I'm Irish. I speak from the heart. I apologize. I don't know when to quit. Want to do something before you go? I may have ruined your life. I don't know what God was thinking today. He put me together. I'm telling you that. I'm going to put my hat back on. He sure could have spent a bit more time. I'm going to pray for you. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. He said, there's no other name given unto man whereby you must be saved. John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth on him should not perish but have everlasting life. I want you to just consider. God has given you breath. He's given you life. I hope I brought you a little entertainment. And I hope some idiot from Heartland notices that this YouTube, and I may not blend in, but I sure as hell can stand out from the crowd. Please think about where you're going to spend eternity. I had more to say in that. I couldn't say it. I want you to know something, though. I want you to know something. I'm the writer. Last scene that I see in my heart is that man walking through Heaven's Gate, and that warrior woman, that black-haired warrior woman, that white hair that she had when she passed, it all changed back to black. And I looked down, and Dear Lord, I'd become young. That's hard to believe. I've been ashamed this last year of being old. I've never been ashamed of where I've been, what I've done. I've been ashamed of what I said. I'm writing it. Those two beautiful people, they walked toward each other and they didn't touch, and last I heard, they hadn't moved. They were still looking into each other's eyes. I do hope you will consider coming back. I have 70 stories in my mind already. I may be needing a job anyway, so maybe I can sit here and talk. God bless you. You ever hear of a man, or rarest of occasions, a woman abusing a child? You turn them in. Or you give me a call if it's a man, if it's big enough. I won't pick on anyone my own size and never have. I don't think I know how to turn this stupid thing off. I'm gonna try. Heartland were idiots for letting me go. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I found it. Thank you.